We're recording.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Park and Recreation Commission meeting of February 8th, 2021. This open meeting of the Needham Park and Rec Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, to suspend public gatherings, such suspend the open meeting requirement to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. For this meeting, we are convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. All supporting materials that have been provided to this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. With that, why don't we get started? Good evening, everybody, again. Do we have any public comments? Stacy, I'm guessing anyone here from the public?
We have some public, yes. So Karen is here from the public. She snuck in ahead of time, but we'll allow it. I don't see Penny yet. Nancy White is here because she is on our agenda. And
Yep.
Dave Rutley from junior football is also in attendance currently.
Okay, terrific. Well, welcome, everybody. Why don't we get right into our agenda? And the first thing on our agenda is our guest. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen. She is the Park and Recreation Liaison to, I'm going to call it the Youth Commission, but that's not right, Youth and Family Services Liaison. So thank you for coming. We appreciate that, that you could make it to our meeting tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So Karen, this is hopefully you were told just kind of a meeting to reintroduce ourselves to you and you to us. So we can find out what's going on with the Youth and Family Services, and kind of just remind you what we do, and that we, if there's anything that you see that might impact the Park and Rec Commission or where we could be involved and make a difference, we would like you to keep us in mind. So with that, if you would like to say a few words, you are welcome to say that, and then I'll ask the commissioners if they have any questions.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I would just start off by saying that I think, from what I've heard, it sounds like Park and Rec and Youth and Family Services have been working really well together lately. There's been a lot of collaboration, especially through this very challenging year, it sounds like, on making sure that, we're working kind of not at cross purposes with each other and coordinating who's doing what kinds of programs and when. And I know that the month of March is coming up, right? And I think there's typically a close partnership on the Needham Unplugged efforts. So I know the Youth and Family Services team is looking forward to working with you all on that again, if it hasn't already started. And then I know this year is like probably going to be a little bit more complicated, right? And that, again, it's going to be activities that are socially distant and all that. So a little bit different than prior years. And then one example, I think, of the good partnership this year was the collaboration on the activity bags, where you guys provided materials for the bags and Youth and Family Services provided some materials about wellness and taking care of your mental self and all that. And I think that was a really positive thing. Going forward, I don't know that there's a whole lot that I can tell you about things that are coming up. I think in terms of programming, I know there's a lot going on programming wise in the schools, things like art programs for elementary school kids, some of the programming that is typically done through like the middle school kinds of years, all being done, remotely for now. I think just overall continuing the good communication and good collaboration is important to do that. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, particular questions, happy to try to answer them or take them back to Sarah or whoever is appropriate on the Youth and Family Services side.
Cindy, if I
Sure.
could jump in real quick.
Yep.
Just one of the big things we collaborated with you guys, Karen, and we are so super thankful for, because it was such a great project. And I'm sharing my screen. And yes, these are my children.
No, I
So
meant to mention that.
was the
Actually.
mural
Yeah, that was a
project,
great
which was
program.
like fantastic. And we
Yes.
get so many comments about it and so many different, this one's not interested, but the rest of them were. So we get so much great feedback about it and people wanting to do similar projects elsewhere. So I think,
Oh, awesome.
you know, I've talked to Sarah a bit, but we'd love to continue to do in and around town.
Yeah,
And one of the things I
that's
have been
great.
talking to the library about is they got a CARES Fund grant for a story walk. And so they're
Oh.
going to pick an art book and do a story walk leading up to the mural.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that will bring all three of our departments
Yep.
together. So, have the kids read the book along the way, and then as they get closer and closer, they'll be able to see the mural.
That's such a great idea.
That's
That's
great.
awesome.
That was a great project, and you guys were, you know, vital in making and pushing that through, and you guys did all the heavy lifting. So we really appreciate that. It's such a great thing for the community.
That's great. I personally use the rail trail a lot, and it always makes me happy. It like motivates me to get all the way down to the end.
Yeah,
Go see it.
I won't say my kids were motivated, but they were happy once we got there.
Yes. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for Karen?
Just-
Yeah, Chris?
No, I think it's great. I mean, with all the times that we're going through, to see a collaboration like this, that it's, you know, you want to see the good stuff that's going on. So to see that this working together and the Youth and Family Services, and to have it, you know, pictures like that to kind of show off, that's what we want to see. I mean, it was a great project and it got great traction on social media. So I commend the, you know, the group of doing everything that they can do, and can't wait to see what's down the road. So I commend you all for everything that got done.
That's great. I
Karen,
will pass that
we got
along.
Gifts from town management. We got travel coffee mugs, and the picture on the mug is the mural.
Oh, that's so cool.
Great.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
Karen,
nice.
I should have started off by introducing the commissioners. I was thinking that you knew everyone, but you probably haven't been to our meeting for a couple of years, maybe?
It's, yeah, a couple of years probably. Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that you maybe know Chris Gerstel, maybe?
Yep. I remember meeting Chris.
Okay,
Yep.
and then on my screen, I have Matt Tulin. He would have been on the commission also probably when you were appointed.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Michelle Geddes, I think, was probably on the commission. I'm not sure.
I think so. You look familiar.
And then Bruce Williams, I know, was not on the commission because he joined us in 2020. So Bruce is
Okay.
the newest.
Great. Nice to meet you, Bruce.
Any of the other commissioners have any questions? Yeah, Matt Tulin.
Yeah, I just one idea, and Stacy, this is for you and for Karen, but as we embark on some of these playground conversations, maybe there's a overlap, at least in getting feedback and design input on some of our playground updates from Youth and Family Services. Just that it's, you know, it's an overlapping contingency. So later on, Karen, we're going through a report on the status of our playgrounds, and we had started this prior to Stacy. She's formalized it, and so we were going to be going back, and we had some plans and some designs on updating some playgrounds. So it may be another good area of overlap. Maybe another mural project, Stacy, we could do on a wall at a park or something, you know. So just wanted to highlight that.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for mentioning that.
Any other commissioners? Any questions, comments? No, great. So typically, Karen, we like to meet with our liaisons. We only have two. We have your position and then one on the Council on Aging. And I think it's do it once a year. And if we're really lucky, we do it once every other year. But that is one of our goals. So we're so glad that we get you to come in. And again, please keep us in mind if there's anything that you think the commission should know about, or
absolutely.
You know, we're always happy to be involved and to know what's going on in town, especially since we overlap so much with what we do and what
Right.
Youth and Family Services does.
Right, right.
So best in
Yeah,
mind, and
happy to-
we will invite you back again. Hopefully it won't be quite this long because I think it's been a few years since we had you in. It might have been we initially appointed you and then never invited you back. I don't
It
know.
may have been that long, yes. No, I'm happy to join anytime. Happy to
Great. Well,
join
thank
anytime, of course.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your coming. You are welcome to stay and listen to the rest of our meeting. As you know, it's a public meeting, but we would understand if you don't find it riveting on a Monday night. But thank you
All
for coming.
right. You're welcome. Thanks,
Thank you, Karen.
everybody. All right.
All righty.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Are we
Stacy-
not pleasant company, Cindy? Jeez.
Well,
Oh, she jumped right off, Matt. Good job.
It wasn't my fault.
yeah. Have you seen Penny Grossman yet?
I've not seen Penny.
Okay. And did she RSVP that she was coming? Bless you. Did she RSVP that she was coming? She didn't. And did you send her a Zoom link? I assume that you did, right?
Sent her an email, but because of our email issues Friday, which was all day Friday over the weekend, there is a high chance she did not get it. Now that I'm
Oh.
thinking about it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
didn't even cross my mind earlier when we were having that conversation, but yeah, the email, all of my emails bounced because this morning I got all kinds of fun questions. And I know
Oh.
Chris had an issue too, so I don't have
So-
her contact info. If you do, Cindy, we can get her in at any point.
I have her email. I'm not sure she's someone who would be sitting by her email.
We can also ask her to come on the 22nd and we can put her up first. And we can have her do
Okay.
that then. Why don't I
Okay.
do that? Why don't I give her a call and an email if necessary? To explain what happened and then invite her to the 22nd.
Okay, that would be great. I didn't even think about the fact she may not have gotten the invite. Okay, we'll do that because as you can see, I mean, it's really 5 minutes or less, just a matter of
Mhm.
saying hello and kind of a meet and greet, a little bit more than that. Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Thank you. Then that would bring us to our next guest, who would be Nancy White, who's coming from Playground Inspections of New England, right?
Yep, I'm bringing her over right now.
Righty?
Nancy may not be technically savvy, and now that she can hear me loud and clear, she'll probably yell at me, but we may need some assistance.
Nancy, I'm so shocked at that.
And she's muted. I don't know if she even knows that.
Mute. There you go.
There it is.
Hi. Oh, so hi, Nancy. This is Cindy. How are you?
I'm fine. Can
There
you-
we go.
All right, so
Hi, Stacy.
I needed some help. What can I
Hi,
tell
Kim.
you?
Oh, you are. There you are.
Yes, yeah, it's still really me. It's really hard getting old. It just doesn't work out that well, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing what I
Nancy,
need- doing what I
working
need to do.
Hey, working for me. You don't have any excuse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
say that.
yeah.
So welcome to our commission meeting, Nancy.
Mhm.
I don't know if the other commissioners know this, but Nancy used to work for the town of Needham in the Park and Recreation Department and was for a number of years the director of Park and Recreation. And that is how I first met Nancy. And I know that was in the 1990s. I don't know how long you worked here, Nancy, but it was at least you were director in the 90s. That's what I remember.
83 to 95.
There you go. So long time.
Oh, the middle school years.
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh,
Middle school? Oh, God.
Were you born, Stacy? You know,
Oh, shot
That is-
across the bow.
that's a good thing.
but I met Nancy. I was on the finance committee, and she came into our meetings with the budget, and those were very fun times, actually. Not
Yeah.
right, actually, good times. So
Absolutely. I mean, there was always a good relationship with the finance committee. They needed to understand what exactly we were doing, and I tried to give Cindy every piece of information I could because she was on our FinCom liaison. It was a great relationship. I had a great opportunity, you know, I loved working in Needham. I didn't leave because I hated my job. I just left because I had an opportunity someplace else to do something else. So it's very, very much in the forefront of my mind every day. It was a good part of my life. So how would you like to approach whatever it is that I can help you with?
So what I was thinking, so this is in everybody's package, the playground synopsis. I
I
found
also
that
picked up the hard copies this weekend.
okay, great. I found that for me, the best part was to go to the synopsis, which I think was around page maybe 126 of your packet, if anyone's looking at their packet online. And Nancy had put together, or Nancy and her staff put together a nice summary. And actually on page 128 of the packet, she's listed our playgrounds, those that are in the best condition, those that are in the worst condition. So I was thinking, Nancy, if we could kind of start with that synopsis, and you could tell us maybe somewhat briefly what you think overall of our playgrounds, and then we can ask specifically, you know, I'm happy to see that are the best, but I'm guessing we should probably then focus on the ones that are the worst. So how about if we start there? We'll ask questions.
Right. Well, let me give you the, thank you for the opportunity, and working with Stacy is
A
is
joy.
great. She's right on. It's a joy. I mean, it really is. She's got the thing that you need, that infinite thing that you need. So anyway, with that being said, what you do not have are inspections. That's what's most important for you to know. You are not getting inspections on each of these playgrounds, because that's not what this report is for. What this report is
Okay.
for is to tell you, where are you? Where are you? Who owns what? Who's doing what? Who's not doing what? Where are you in law? Where are you in regulations? Where are you in this? And not to say, okay, this is where you are and this is what you need to do. It's more of, this is where you are and this is your baseline. And based on the big picture, because when I look at the big picture, it's not the equipment. It's driving, walking up to it. It is the equipment. It's the surfacing. It's the site furnishings. It's any of the trees or bushes around it. All of that is playground. So you could have the best playground equipment, but your site furnishings all have sharp edges. You have a problem because you have a great playground. So it takes time to figure out when I, decide to pick Claxton. Well, why does Claxton get to be a winner? Well, their equipment and their surfacing is lousy. I'm just generalizing. And what if somebody's equipment is great? Well, Riverside's equipment is great, but the surfacing and to get to it and to get to play is lousy. But Riverside isn't, so you're going to be lacking somewhere or in a couple places. So with it being said, the things that do stand out to me, that is you have two separate entities. One is owned by all of you and one is owned by the schools, but maintained by you through somebody else. And
Right.
I think that is the relationship that I can see with schools. It's extremely lacking because I can walk onto the parks at the schools and tell you what's wrong and why it's wrong, because I know who's not or who is doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think what I said to Stacy, if someone puts some new surfacing in, they put some of that wood fiber stuff in, but right where they put it in, there's a post that's sharp and it's missing something. How did you miss seeing that when you put the surfacing in? It's all part of the same thing. So you're getting good surfacing for something that's broken. And so you have that, the schools as one thing, it just is. And the relationship on how that whole functions, area functions, and then the parks that you own and how they function and how you find out who takes care of that and how that's going to be done. But because of my ability to have history here, there have been regulations, there have been laws, there have been a variety of things that have changed over the past 20, 25 years. And 3 generations pretty much is what you have out there. there are a lot of those playgrounds weren't even in existence when I started. But what has happened is nothing has happened that much to any of them in the entire time. The only thing that has happened is something like Sunita Williams, Mitchell's. I think the last one I was involved with was Newman. And all of the playgrounds that you have, I'm trying to think, nothing you have is really new. So regulations change and laws change and requests change and what you have to do and your demographics change and the number of kids at schools change, but you haven't changed. You've left everything as is and not stayed ahead or stayed up with what is required. It's no different than if you buy a car, you can't buy the car and say, here's the car, we're good to go, let's go. We don't need to do anything to it. Well, there may be laws that are going to change. You have to have inspections. You have to do this. You have to do that. And your parks and the playgrounds are no different than the pool, and they're no different than the programs. It's its own entity. And it's sorely lacking from ownership. And you can see it when you go into the parks. You can't see it from far away. Everything looks good, and it does, and it is. But the ones that have the highest use by general population would be, of course, DeFazio and Claxton, but the most highest used would be schools because they're using it Monday through Friday, not 180 days a year, but Monday through Friday, afternoons, weekends, holidays. They spend more time in that area. People that go to those schools tend to go to their own playgrounds on the other times that they're there. So the minor ones, the more neighborhood ones like Cricket and Riverside and Walker Gordon, they're low in use, therefore they're low in need for maintenance. Pretty much that. But there have not been changes enough for me to say when I left, this looked like this, and since this time, this has changed here, or nothing has changed here, or this was changed, but only changed once, but never looked at again. So if I was to give you an overall ABCD, you'd probably get a C minus on a lot of it, just because you didn't stay up. You haven't stayed up, so you're somewhat behind the 8 ball with some of your equipment and your entire playground. But you have a lot of equipment out there. You have a lot of an asset. You have well over $1 million worth of equipment that's out there, well over $1 million, $2 million with surfacing. That's huge. So it's an educational process of figuring it out, and you have to decide on how best to swallow the information and say, so what do we want to do? Do we want to do this through, how are we going to budget for this? Are we going to do capital budgeting? Are we going to do, the yearly? Well, right now you don't have a system unless, Stacy, you have a file on every single playground that has everything that has been done on a regular basis, that has, if you've done your inspections or there have been accidents, that everybody has everything. That's what you need to do, because right now, the only thing that is law is ADA and the Mass Architectural Access Board, which, for a lack of a better term, trumps over ADA in Massachusetts, and they're more stringent. And you are required to do those. And it doesn't matter who comes into the town. If they have a complaint, doesn't matter where they're from, they need to know, the town needs to know that whatever it is you have in your files is up to date. Because if ever you do need to go to court for one reason or another, courts know that towns don't have money to do what they want to do with playgrounds. They know that. They understand that. But when somebody hurts themselves and you go, you're right. That playground had, we were lacking in surfacing, but you know what? We knew that. And this is what our plan was. That's what somebody wants to hear. They want to hear that you've embraced what you have, what you own, and what you're doing with it. And because of that, it's not as fast as this is what you need to do with all these things. It's a matter of how are you going to address this? You know, the demographics have changed, of course, Cindy. I've been gone for a long, long time. The whole town, what are you laughing at, Stace? For a long time, but you didn't let your playgrounds change as they were supposed to. And things are very different. And I was a director and then I sold equipment and now I assess and work with, unfortunately, lawyers or landscape architects or towns. And the blip is always from the owner buying and walking away. And that's what happens. You buy and you walk away. School raises money, they put the playground in, they walk away. What do they care? They're going to be gone in 5 or 6 years. So that's my story in the overall.
Okay.
And I think that you need to be looking at probably the infrastructure of what it is that you have and figure out the best way, because I mean, the next process is, okay, so what can we do? And what can we do in a faster fashion or something like that? It's the players that have to be on board, because the players aren't right now. It doesn't look like the players are. You have someone that owns it who's trying to get a grip on what has happened. That would be your director saying, I don't know a whole lot, but gee, I did this sort of assessment and was helpful in Arlington. So you know what, I'm going to do it here. All right. Now she gets it. Now she has to look at the other people that are involved and what's not happening, because she hasn't even been here to go through the processes, especially with COVID. And now you have to go backwards and get those people on board. Who is responsible at the schools? Is anyone going out when something breaks? How can people be going by these schools, at the schools every day, and there are broken things that are plain as day? They're plain as day. You see them and no one's saying anything. It's discouraging, and it's you're living your life every day and she doesn't know. You know, Stacy doesn't know any of this is happening. Do the teachers say anything? Do custodians say anything? Do parents say anything? The old, if you see something, say something. It's amazing, some of the things that are broken. And I just look at it and go, you have to be kidding me. No one sees this. So it's not all bad news. The good news is you have playground equipment. The good news is if you're going to continue with playground equipment, what are you going to do to try to bring yourself into a position of saying, you know, this is one of the reasons people move to Needham. It always has been one of the reasons that people move to Needham. It's the schools and Parks and Recreation. It's never changed and it never will.
Right.
So
Nancy,
that's someone it.
okay, so I think I have a bunch of questions, but before I ask, I think I would like to turn it to the commissioners. But before I turn to the commissioners, I will turn to our director, because we always yield the floor to our director when she wants to speak. So Stacy, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I just want to speak to that communication piece with the schools. Before COVID, I did meet with all of the principals of all our schools to start opening up the communication line, because what I had heard and what they confirmed at that meeting, that there was a very strict policy on how they were supposed to contact the Park and Rec department about any issues at the playgrounds. So about a week before COVID, I met with Dan Gutenkantz and all the principals and basically said, here's my phone number. Give it to everybody that goes on those playgrounds so they can contact us, because I don't, whether it's a custodian, a teacher, a teacher's aide, or somebody working in the cafeteria, I want to know what's going on. So we had started to open that up and people were starting to reach out, and then we closed all the playgrounds. So that went off for a while, but we actually have a meeting coming up this week with the schools and the school principals. So I will reiterate that conversation and communication piece and how I want it to be as open and as wide as possible. So that is something that before me was an issue, and that we are working to make sure that can come through better now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anyone have Mr. Gerstle?
Nancy, thank you very much for doing this report. I know this is something that is very serious for the Park and Rec Commission to, take a look at and address. And I apologize, I have not read through the whole report, but just some ones that stick out, like in regards to the overall best and the overall worst. Is that a particular pecking order, or it's just, that's just how you put them in the system? Like in the
You
worst
know,
is
because
DeFazio the
they're,
worst,
yeah,
Elliott not so bad? I mean,
well, the almost okay.
yeah.
What I try to look at is where they are. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter, even when I did something actually in Arlington, and I'm not familiar with Arlington, I could tell where I was, who the user base is. I can tell. If something is just close enough to Main Street, it's used a lot more than if it's the same equipment that's over about a mile away with no sidewalk. So I was looking at the amount of users and age. Well, DeFazio has a huge population that has nothing to do with the playground, but it's what's being brought in that then enhances people to use the playground. And that's all the athletic fields. So you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people that use DeFazio, and many of them return not to play the games there again, but they saw the playground.
Mhm.
So now they're going to start coming there. So we know that that's big. Claxton is the same way, multi-use site, also on a main road. So you know where that shows up.
Mhm.
And then I had to weigh, is something so unbelievably great at both of those? No, there's nothing great at either of them. So that's tough. There's nothing perfect except the settings themselves. So it wasn't a wait, because you have site furnishings and you have the playground equipment and you have the grounds and you have the approach. It's the experience. It's from the moment you get out of your car and continue on and walk in, do what you want to do, and leave. Whether you're sitting, you're reading, you're playing, you're watching. Can I sit on a bench and there's no, rebar sticking out? Can I sit on a bench that's not wobbly? Is there a tree next to me that's going to fall? Is there something wrong with the surfacing and all there is concrete, like the stainless steel slides with the
Mhm.
concrete at the bottom and, things of that nature. So that's kind of how it was. I then tried to do schools separately, but it's how you view the whole system itself. Of course, I would be hot to trot on DeFazio and Claxton because those are yours. Those are yours.
Mhm.
But you've got the schools. So, I don't know if they give you any money. I don't know what they do. Does that answer it? Some of it?
Oh, no, it definitely does. And the only other follow-up to that is there were two that, like I said, I don't know if I missed. Cricket and Greensfield, that I know Greens was done, not too long ago,
Mhm.
that I wasn't sure, are those like kind of in the middle, that they're not necessarily the best condition, but they're definitely not the overall worst condition? I
They're
wasn't sure if
not
they were.
overall the worst condition. Cricket is not a heavily used, except if you know it.
Mhm.
It's not accessible to get to. It's not a place you go, let's go drive to Cricket, park our car, and go across the field over to this playground. Greensfield is newer, but in the big picture of what it smells like, what it looks like, what the trash looks like, that's the thing that makes it bad. That boardwalk going in, the lack of surfacing and some handicap accessibility. But if you look at Greensfield, it's awesome. It's smaller things that have to be taken care of, and weigh that up against Cricket. They're different animals
Okay.
altogether. If you were putting money in, I'd get it into Greensfield. That's where I would put it. Button it up, do the things you need to do there, and take that ownership, because it is much higher used than Cricket. And take a look at what you're going to do at Cricket. And is it cost effective to do what you have with that equipment where it is? Does it need to move? Go someplace else in at Cricket? Does it need to stay there? One of the things Stacy and I were talking about is, it's nice that Cricket has, I can't get there. No one can get there to Cricket. You can't get there and you can't use anything if you have a disability. And don't always think of someone in a wheelchair, but I can't get there. And years ago, that was okay. It was okay. You needed playground equipment. And then it was you needed accessible equipment. Well, now it doesn't matter if it's accessible. If I can't get to it, I can't get to it. So in the money, if I weighed those two, Greens Field. And if you had money for Greens Field and cricket at the same time, and you had to do it, you'd figure out what really needs to happen at Greens Field first, and then look at cricket, because Greens Field is heavy. It's right there in town,
Right, right.
you know? And that one was sad because of the trash and the urine. And that's hard because you have it had rained. And I knew, you could see the bushes where is that apartments next to it now? It used to be the senior center, but
Still is.
okay, the bushes that are there, when you see that they're worn, it's because that's where the boys go. And so that's just the way it is. But that it needs to be addressed one way or another, or maybe not, and that's just where the boys are gonna go. I don't know, but it's a
Okay,
beautiful park.
I didn't know that. I did not know that, but let's just about.
What's that?
I
Well,
did
Cindy,
not,
you don't have a little kid, you don't have a little boy.
yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
And we did not do that at the playgrounds. I did
Well,
not.
yeah. So those are the things, but I'll tell you, Greensfield, it's gorgeous. DeFazio should be gorgeous. Claxton should be gorgeous. Sunita should be gorgeous. Mitchell should be. And Riverside should just be maintained nicely. Mills should be maintained nicely, but some of these are bad because of the hazards. And the lawsuits that I've been brought into is I'm usually asked to look at something, and when it happened, how did it happen? How did it even happen? And could it have been avoided? And most of the things that you have out there could be avoided, but someone has to look at it and say, hey, I have got a problem. And Stacy's going, I don't have $15,000 to fix that. So she goes to the commission and says, we have a problem. I need $15,000. I don't have it. All right, well, let's just mark it down. We need to mark it down, acknowledge it, have it in the files, and let's figure out how we're going to fix something.
Okay.
But you react and you're not proactive.
Okay. I think Commissioner Tulin, did you have questions, comments?
Yeah, no, again, thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Nancy, for doing this. You were getting more towards what I was going to be asking, which is, what would you put down as a plan? Because, I'm very surprised about Greens, because that was built post ADA, so that should be fully compliant. That
It is
whole-
not. Yeah.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
that to me goes back to the overall design on that one, because that was redone. Forgive me, Cindy. I know it was during my tenure here, so it has to be
I think
less
it was
than 9 years ago.
2013, I'm going to say.
Well,
2013.
in fact, I can jump in on that one. I was part of the design when I worked for my former employer.
Okay.
And when it was going to be put in, it was at that time going to be compliant. It has since come out of compliance, and that has been the case since the day it opened, because there is a law that was never addressed or kept up or then incorporated after. And because of how it is now, with some of the poured in place and some of the wood fiber, and then you go into, there's no maintenance, now you have the tripping, now you start seeing the base. So
Yep.
everything meets to some extent, but it doesn't anymore.
No, and I
is an easy
appreciate, no,
fix.
and I get that. I get,
Yeah.
Nancy, I get your point there. I'm just,
Yeah.
and I think you also hit the nail on the head. Our philosophy was, hey, we have some accessibility. Not every park is fully accessible for
Right.
everybody. So let's focus on having the ones where we
Yes.
can,
Yep,
right?
yep, and I
And-
get
and
that.
That,
That's right.
Greens was supposed to be the park and rec park that fit that need versus
Mhm.
any of the others.
Yep. And not a lot of money would need to go into it.
Which is good
A
news.
lot less than DeFazio. So maybe you'd say, hey, let's hit it. We can do it.
Yeah,
Let's get it done. Fix
Well,
it, get it off, cross it off.
yeah. And that was where I was going is, we did have, so when we did this prior to Stacy coming on board, we had designated, so we went through a prioritization, and we had some documentation of our own assessment our own department's assessment of the playgrounds. And I think we and we looked at things like age. We didn't look at all the detail that you did, clearly. But I think DeFazio and Perry were on our top list of, and one of Perry was also based off of neighborhood outcry, right? Which was, hey, we got a big thriving neighborhood in this area around Perry. May not be a destination park for as much, but it's a very heavily used neighborhood.
It
park.
is, yeah.
So I guess I'd just love to hear more of your 1, 2, 3 of what would your recommendation be for, where do we go first, and where do, what
Well,
are the
if you
first
have
3
it-
things we address?
Sure, if you have existing funding, then you have to pull those 2 out and say, okay, we have money, maybe we would like to put some of it over here, but we can't because we have the money here. So how best can we use it without saying we're just putting money into something because we have it allocated for this specific place? Utilize that money to be able to do what it is that you need to do for those parks and button it up and cross the park off. Done, gone. And you can do that. It just depends on what you have, financially. Green, one sidetrack for 1 second. Any park that I went to that people were there, they said the same thing, and especially at Perry. You working for the town? You work for the town. You're going to fix it because this traffic is bad. I said, I know you don't have a good crossing area. Oh, we can't see a thing, and it's horrible. It's just horrible, and pretty much it's right on the money because Stacy, I think you mentioned to me something about traffic at Perry, but
Did.
I think that you can wipe out, if you have money for cricket and greens, look at what's being stated and figure out what's the best way for you to spend that money on doing what you need to do. But I would tell you the ones that you really have to address are going to be DeFazio. I know everybody thinks about, there are more people that use DeFazio than Perry, but people wouldn't know that because it's not in a residential setting.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, to your point, when that
Yeah.
field is full, all of the parents of younger kids who
Right.
aren't on those
Right.
fields are over in the
Right.
park,
Right.
in the playground. So
Yeah.
it-
So
that's-
I know I'm not being as defined. I think it's because you have to define how you're going to do this, either with a capital plan and how you're going to deal with some situations that you have. You have some foibles. You have some ADA requirements. How can you do these things? And I mean, like Riverside, you only need one or two things up there, maybe $6,000. You're done. That's it. Well, maybe you do that with Walker Gordon, and you can get those 2 things done because it's not really a big deal. Those are well, we could wipe those 2 out and let's do greens and cricket because we have money. And then we start doing the Perry, Claxton, DeFazio planning while we're doing those other things, and then start hitting things. And looking for funding. I don't know if the ADA, Commission on Disabilities has any money. When they started, I was on the board and we had $500. I
I
don't know what that was for.
Yeah, I think it's about the same today. I don't think
Oh,
they have,
not a lot going on there. Okay.
no, not for money.
But I think there's a sit down, roll up your sleeves sort of thing, and having to take a look. This is a huge system based on the population you have and the support staff that you have. Things just aren't gelling. And this right now is your best tool for anybody that gets hurt anywhere on any of the playgrounds tomorrow. This is the best thing you have. You just go right in and say, yeah, you're right. See this thing? Well, we just got this. We haven't even gone through the whole thing yet. And you're right. And that's what they want to see. So you've done your first step. Now your next step is to now renew yourself and understand and refresh yourself of what it is that you have and how this fits into everything else you're dealing with COVID and the pool and the programs and the staffing. It has its own life.
Right.
And going that route, not sure if I'm touching upon, everything, but that's why doing an assessment, it's long, but it's not going to give you exacts because you need to have all the information before you can take that next step to say, oh, I get it. I'm starting to see some things here. Nobody at the schools are talking to us. That's a definite. Oh, we have surfacing problems all over the place. So it's a beginning point. And that's pretty much what you're seeing. Plus you get to see what you don't see when you drive by because you don't stop. You know, Cindy, your daughter is not going to be stopping by and playing on the swings, I don't think. You know, so you're not, or maybe you are, you and Jim are. So at least now all of you, this is kind of like a mini master plan for one thing. And that's what it is. It's telling you exactly. A master plan for recreation doesn't do anything unless you really can address some of those things. So that's what this is. This is your mini master plan of saying, here's what we have. We know we have to do stuff. How do we want to do it?
Okay. I think this is actually a great tool for us. And now we know we need a plan. Do either of the other commissioners have any questions or comments? Michelle. So Michelle is perhaps the only one whose children still go to the playground, I think. Maybe Chris's kids too, but Michelle's got the younger children anyway.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and Nancy, I just had a question regarding like updating to the current policy. Like hearing that Greensfield was compliant, and then by the time it was built, it was no longer compliant. It feels like we're going to be on this hamster wheel, and we're going to constantly be updating the playgrounds that are in fairly good shape to be compliant, and never really having an opportunity to like tackle the dephasios, right? Because we're going to be in the upkeep mode and not being able to kind of dive in, which would depend on I guess funding. But once the policy changes, is there an expectation, like a timeline that we should be working towards in order to get some of the equipment updated?
Identifying a timeline. That's what it is.
It's just
there is no grandfathering in of anything. Greensfield's not maintained. That's number one. And so because of that, the wood fiber, which is ADA accessible, considered ADA accessible, is not compliant. So you're not accessible with your wood fiber. Your port in place is accessible, except I can't get to every place based on what the Mass Architectural Access Board says I have to. And you married a unitary material with a loose fill material. So now you've created a hazard. Are you ever going to win? No, but you chose to spend money over time, and now you own them. So now how best can you address it?
Let me jump in on that. I think, Michelle, one of the things that we can do as a department and commission is identify, we need to fix at any given field or playground, we need to fix X, Y, and Z. We will fix X by this date, we will fix Y by this date, and we will fix Z by this date. And those things can change depending on the laws changing. But if we have a plan identified and something happens, then, you know, the legalese people in the world will understand we are getting there, but we can't possibly take care of everything at once.
And that's known. You're a town. This is the way it is throughout the country. We in the Northwest are the worst. New England and Northwest, we are the worst. We put something in and we walk away. It's just the way it is. But we also don't have 12 months a year. We only have 8 or 9. So people don't pay attention the rest of the time.
Not this year. This year they're out there.
Well, I don't even know what year is it.
The other thing that has come up, and Nancy, you know the year better than I do, but Mass Architectural Advisory Board that came in and trumped ADA in Massachusetts is a recent thing. And recent, how many years? Maybe 5 or?
Well, actually, the law has been in effect a long time, but they're a Mass Architectural Access Board is a board under the governor that oversees everything. Playgrounds only being one. It's ball buildings. It's everything. There's no way of enforcing. They can't go out and check and see if there's a problem. They have no staff. the only time you know you have a problem is when you get the letter that says there's a lawsuit, or there's a letter that an anonymous person who lives in the state of New York has contacted us to indicate that they were unable to bring their children to Riverside Park. And you're going, oh my God, could they have chosen another place? And because of that, they're putting in a complaint, and you need to show us a plan for your compliance to bring Riverside Park on X street up to compliance. You go, okay, let's see. Yep, we do. It's low on our hit list, but it is there. And we do plan on doing it. Oh, you knew that? Yep, I did. So you can't fix everything. You just always continue to move forward, and not moving forward and not doing anything is the thing that makes it harder for you to keep going. You're always going to have a pecking order. You're always going to have things that are wrong. Nothing's ever going to be right. Like in life. Same thing, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from the commissioners? Bruce Williams.
Yes, so Nancy, I really appreciate the detail in your report. It's pretty concerning when it says conditions should be corrected immediately all through your report, but obviously we have to address that. But from a personal standpoint, I have 2 grandsons, and one of them is a special needs grandson who just started walking when he was 4, now 5.5. And the only 2 playgrounds that he finds suitable with his needs are obviously the Williams playground. Newman playground has worked out well for him. So, I mean, whatever, that's where he's very comfortable, and he feels safe, and hopefully if we can get the capital and a nice plan, we can correct all these deficiencies.
And that is because the spatial situation of the things that you have there, how they were spaced out, and the surfacing. The surfacing is consistent.
Yeah.
It's unitary.
The surfacing at the Williams School is, because he falls a lot,
Yeah,
and, you know, he might hit his elbow or his shoulder, but he just bounces back up. But
that's right. Right.
It's
Right. And
Uh,
I mean, it's not going to be a reality that Riverside is going to have poured in place rubber. It's not going to be a reality that Walker Gordon, but there are lots of options to make sure of what it is that you have. You're doing the best of what it is. And even with Newman, when I mentioned something to Stacy, you go out to Newman, is that surfacing good? Do you see how worn it is? There are worn spots. Why haven't they been fixed? They're continuing to rip. Rip. It's going to cost even more. Fix those. You can fix them now. Get it done. Cross it off. Yeah, and I can see
Right.
that. Those are great playgrounds.
you can see the list is long. I mean, if you go through your report, there's just so many
Yeah.
conditions should be corrected immediately. That's going to be.
Well, you know what? That it's the only way that it's the only way that we really, in our field, in our industry, can get people to go, oh my God, I thought we had beautiful parks. You do. I thought we had awesome equipment everywhere. You do.
Yeah.
I thought we had great surfacing, especially at greens. You do.
Yeah.
But are you meeting the requirements of your grandson at Greens Field?
Yeah.
Well, Greens Field is a really big place. Why shouldn't he be able to use that? You know, and maybe DeFazio has something that is really of something that he would like to use. He can't get there, but he can see it. He just can't get there. Well, that's the thing we can fix, that you have that opportunity. It's good that Needham has what they have as is. You're not horrible. You're in the majority, unfortunately, but you have said, wait a minute, we need to stop, time out. No one's done anything here. No one's really looked at this. And if we are going to stay Needham with a strong department, which you always have been, it's time to move forward and take a good look. And it's just like the fields. When people say, I need more fields, where are you going to find them? You study, you look and see if you can. And if you can, you do. And if you don't, you figure out how you deal best with what it is that you have in front of you. All
Right.
anybody wants to see, Cindy, is move forward, do the right thing, and try to figure out some things. And it doesn't have to be done overnight.
Right. So it sounds to the important thing is to, once you get past your assessment, is to have a plan. And then to stick with the plan and also to continually assess what you have.
Exactly, exactly.
Right, and we haven't
Exactly.
done, I would acknowledge we haven't done that. I would also acknowledge we have been overwhelmed, one with field, but then with the pool, as you know, that pool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that we should have let this go.
Right. I mean, that's, you
so-
got it. You got
so-
it. And that's it. And to that end, what's used the most? You don't use the soccer fields in the winter, but you see kids at playgrounds in the winter. Parents bring their kids 12 months a year. You won't see that schools aren't open the whole year. You know, so you're looking at things that bring in the most money for the short period of time that you have to spend a lot of money. But these are the long-term things that if the money is spent well, when it's being done, let it run itself because it can.
Right.
So you
Okay.
can go back to your pool and say, I got to do stuff.
All right, Stacy, and then I think we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
Well, I think too, once we like, because my mind has been churning this long-term plan for playgrounds, and Nancy's assessment is really just the first step for me and try to figure out a pecking order with you guys. But what I know is once we have this plan of we're going to do X here and we're going to do Y here, it doesn't mean that we can't move those things if
It's a
something else
continual.
comes up.
Absolutely.
Something project comes up, or the finance drops, or we need to focus on something else like
Absolutely.
hosting 10 million vaccine clinics.
Yep.
You can move those things because you still have a plan. And that's what's most important is
And
this plan.
That's it. She's got it. That's it. Nobody's expecting anything overnight. It just can't be done.
Okay, well, great. This is great. If there isn't anything further from the commissioners, I think we will wrap this up. But thank you. Nick. This has been invaluable, and I know that Stacy is very interested in this, so that is helpful to us because I know she moved this forward.
Yeah. Well, Needham's a strong department. There's a great reputation out there. There always has been, and there's also a lot of people that want. You know, they want things done, and I know that that's something that you're moving forward. You've only had 6 directors, you know, I think ever, and every time you have another director, it's something has to get picked up and the ball has to keep going. And it's Stacy's turn, so she's going to start bouncing the ball and going at it.
Well, thank you. This was helpful. Thank you so much for
my
for coming.
pleasure.
We appreciate that.
Yep. And feel free to contact me. You know, Stacy and I talk now and then. She'll bounce things off of me. And feel free to do that. And I certainly don't mind coming up and explaining or showing how certain things function and how it's looked at.
Okay,
and
great.
I have
We
a
may
special
take you up
place.
on that, Nance,
always.
once the snow clears and we can see stuff and it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah, and
When
they
we
let
start to
people
figure
out.
out our pecking order, we
Yeah,
may reach out to you guys.
yeah. Well, it's
Okay.
nice meeting those that I didn't know. Nice seeing those that I do know.
Yep.
And I really feel old tonight. So
You are.
that's fine, but it's all good. Thank you
right.
for your time. I appreciate
Right.
it. Thank
Thank
you.
Nancy.
Take care.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
bet.
Nancy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Great. Thank you. Well, that was a lot. I didn't like getting a C-. That's not what we're used to. Any of us.
Speak for yourself.
Oh.
Chris is like, yes,
Yes,
killing
right.
it.
Honor roll.
I have no comment on that. All right. So I think this will stay on our agenda for further discussion, but clearly we have, some things to think about and our work cut out for us, which not really surprising, but I agree with Bruce that the language was a little bit harsher and the C- was harsher than what I expected, but truthful. Okay. Next item on our agenda is our director's report. So Stacy, if you want to zip through that.
I will zip away. Thank you. So winter programming, we're holding strong, and Chris is now currently working on basically getting things in line for spring because we gave him a very hard deadline because we did not want any more rolling classes because it was driving us all crazy. Not him, but the rest of us. So that's good. But overall programming has been kind of light, except for skiing, which was super populated. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that is true.
Popular.
Popular, thanks.
Stretch.
Oh God, it's Monday.
You're C minus
But
now?
overall, fair enough. Fair enough. Yay, public school. But we're moving forward with starting on really spring programming, and most of that is, winter was mostly indoors or virtual, and spring is I'm really pushing the team to really get outside as much as possible. I know I'm going stir crazy. The kids are going stir crazy. Everybody needs to just get outside. So that's what our big push is. Fields and permitting. Island lighting will be out the week of February 22nd, barring any major blizzards or snowstorms, which we do not know yet, ever. I would like to propose that we hold the field summit at our next meeting, 6 to 7, with a hard stop at 7, right before our commission meeting. And we can't, does anybody have any comments on that before I move forward?
Does that time work for commissioners? 6 o'clock? It's okay with me, but if it's not, please speak up.
I think
The
we've
other
always
option
done
is
that
we
in the
can do it
past.
at like 6:30 and start our meeting later and just have a light agenda. Like we're flexible a little bit if we want to hold it on the same day.
We do usually try to start
6:30 would be a little easier.
6:30.
And yeah, we've typically made our agenda light for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't I, if that works for everybody, why don't I do that when I'll post it from 6:30 to 7:30? And I'll be sure that our meeting is as light as possible, even if I have to make the director's report a little bit longer. Then
Yep.
we can balance it out that way.
Okay.
So it'll
Great.
be 6:30. Field summit. Okay, sorry. Multiply. So, Kristen, I'm gonna allow you to share. You should be able to share now. Kristen worked on the online submittal form. So this is the back end that Kristen's going to show us. It is not live. It won't be live until tomorrow if you guys approve it. This is for our spring and summer field permits and track, Michelle. They are, like I said, we're accepting them as placeholders, so people in the youth sports organizations can check off their to-do lists, but that does not mean we are approving anything. That is a town-wide policy currently for both fields and special events. Kristen has worked on both of those to try and streamline them. Obviously for the fields, once we get to where we know what the protocols will be, then we will be asking everyone to submit any protocols. So this one looks like the field permit.
So this is identical to what we did in the summer and in the fall of 2020. So we have the just streamlined information of everything. This is updated and linked to the state guidance. They still have to update their own policies and procedures and protocols for COVID restrictions. And then this document here is what we produced back at the beginning. So there were a couple of updates to this for mostly dates. And we're going to discuss tennis courts and tennis fees later in the meeting, but that is all a part of how we started scheduling at the beginning of scheduling in 2020. So this is all linkable, and basically they have to say that they did read through it and they understand it and stuff like that.
Hey, Kristen, two quick
Yeah.
things. One's
Sure.
a very small nit. I would suggest using upload file instead of choose file. 'Cause
It's not a choice. You click on it and then you can upload.
Okay,
whichever file
well,
you
it's
want.
just more of from an end user perspective, but I love our web team. The second one is, do we need, because I know that there are different groups who are saying we're gonna get started on XYZ date, right? Do we need to, in that checkbox or somewhere, say that they will not, youth groups cannot promote their, like on the web page, that they cannot promote their event or activity until they get an approved permit? I think it should be on this page somewhere. Maybe it's underneath the checkbox of what they've read.
That is not the current policy of the commission. I don't think the commission has ever made a statement about whether or not user groups can promote anything prior to getting their permit. It's just been an understanding, of course, that if you don't get an approved permit, then you can't hold your clinic regardless of the amount of promotions you've done on it. But if the commission wanted to make that, I'm happy to add it.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever gotten involved with that stuff, Matt. I mean, like Kristen said, if they want to promote it and they don't have approval, then it doesn't get approved. That's kind of,
On them.
that's on them, right? That's on them. But I don't think that we have tried to legislate what they can promote or how they can promote.
Fine. You guys are spot on with that. I guess I'm just trying to, somewhere I'm wondering, do we need some level of disclaimer that says you don't have anything until you have a permit? Stacy?
Maybe, Kristen at the bottom, well, I maybe for the moment, we should remove the requirement for team rosters, because I don't know if people have those yet, unless youth group people, do you have team rosters? So that may just be something we have to get later. The other thing is at the bottom of the form, can you scroll down? Another checkbox could be, by checking this box, I understand that I'm just submitting this form, and that does not necessarily mean that I am being approved for a permit, and I understand that I do not have any rights to any fields as of this date. Or something, you can
Yeah,
wordsmith that
something
better than,
that was kind of what I'm getting at, Stacy.
but something to that states like, yes, this is your form and we accept it, but it doesn't mean you're getting what you ask.
Yep, so in the document, in our guidance document, it does make a statement about when we can accept this. This isn't loaded because we didn't have this like discussion yet about making sure that this is what we were doing. But it does say this is to apply for permitted field use. This does not guarantee a permit will be issued. It says it right in the document that they have agreed that they have signed. So if they come back and they say, you never said that, well, they agreed that they read this document. That's only 3 pages. Just in case anyone was wondering, because I know that I'm the queen of lengthy documentation. So this is only a 3-page document. It goes over, or it might be 4, I apologize. It goes over everything, the general guidance. It goes over, why we have restrictions, things of that nature, and then other COVID protocols that are expected. And we hold expectations on every user level, regardless of if you're a passive user, a resident visiting the town, or if you're a permitted user group. You should wash your hands, you should cover your face, you should keep your distance, that type of thing. So this is
I'll defer to the
newer
rest of the
one.
commission. I just, knowing what happened with baseball last summer and what I'm seeing already with field hockey, people sort of assume that whatever they fill this out, they're going to get what they get. And I agree that it's not our position that they shouldn't or can't promote what they can, but I thought, Stacy, where you were going was just where my mind and head was at, of whether if you guys feel it's covered elsewhere, peace. I think, Kristen, you sort of hit the nail on the head. As long as we can say that we said it somewhere, then peace.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely add another one. I can definitely say by submitting this document or submitting this form, I completely acknowledge that this is a submit for a request. This is not a guaranteed permit, and some wording. I can definitely wordsmith that at the bottom and make it a very high bullet point to make sure it's very well known. Because I mean, people had spring all lined up for last year too by the time that we shut down in March, and they had to do refunds and or credits or what have you. So, I mean, it's very evident if the state ever closes down again that we can't be held responsible for registrations that were accepted on fields that can't be used because of the state ordinance.
Yeah,
either.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's a good point, Matt, when you phrase it that way. So something that says, just a reminder, right, that until you receive this back as approved, this is not ready. You're not ready to go, right? So it's probably an excellent point to make. And if you're seeing something out there already that someone is or groups are assuming they have exactly what they had last year, when we don't really know that, then we need to give them that reminder.
Cool, thank you. Kristen, do you also have the special event one?
I sure do. It's a different screen.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this one's a Google Doc. This one will be located on our website in a little different fashion. I'm going to link both up to a single page that is called Scheduling Field Use and Special Events. And eventually that's where our policy can be broken down and highlighted. We'll put it that way. So this one's a little bit different. This is it's the same kind of form that we've always had, but it's kind of streamlined and updated. It can update, you can click many different things if you want many fields for your special event. But it still has the same things that the commissions always ask: our date, our rain date, setup time, cleanup time, start event, end event. If they're charging a fee, how many participants they expect, trash, inclement weather. Do you need electricity? Do you need to use field lights? Do you have sound equipment? How many vehicles? What's your parking plan? Anything that they're bringing on site. Are you using portable restrooms? Will you serve food? Are you requesting exclusive use? Are signs requested for this event? And the contact information. This is school event and requiring that if it's a school event, that the principal's approved, and if it's a nonprofit event being held by a nonprofit organization, that the board has approved it, and that nobody rogue special event holders. So the couple things I just made very clear, which was something that I believe you've always requested in the past, the name of the representative that will always be on site during the entire event, and always the brief description, which I know sometimes gets lost in or had gotten lost on our prior form. So this is a Google Doc, and it will be sent to the Needham Park and Rec page, so all of us will get it, and they can submit it. They also have an availability to upload their insurance certificate right to this document.
This is phenomenal.
Oh, this is, oh God.
Yeah.
That old form was so antiquated. To have this
Welcome
now.
welcome
Oh.
to the year 2010. No, so Kirsten, this is great.
This is
Yeah.
gonna make it easy for everybody now.
Yes, Kristen, do we need to get approval from the trustees, or at least get them to agree that this is okay? It's same stuff, but it is different. So
I mean, it's a question. I don't know. The requests have to be approved by them, but I don't know what size of information or what level of information that I think they might have gotten the old forms, but I'm sure we could easily just print this out or attach this in a PDF and say, here's the information. Administratively, I don't think it's because it's the same information. They're not getting any different information. We're not asking any different questions even. It's just a different format. So as long as we can provide the same information, I don't foresee it being a thing, but I believe Mr. Williams is the liaison with the trustees. So if he wanted to reach out and double check, I'm happy to follow suit. Or I could, of course, call my best friend.
No, I have two contacts with the Memorial Park trustees.
Are you
I'm
friends
also
with
guessing that
Mr. Dermody?
Cecilia will be pretty thrilled that this is a Google form, since she is the staff liaison to the trustees. And I don't know if nobody's ever used a Google form, all of the answers can be exported into a Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
So if they wanted that information like this or PDFs, we can also email specifically Memorial Trustees stuff to them, or print it out and mail it. I don't know, however they like to get stuff.
Yes, I just think it would be polite of us to let them know we're changing the form. This is what we're changing it to, and make sure they don't have any suggestions or have any issues with it, and then ask those questions. How would they like to be informed? I doubt they will have any comments or at least any problem with it, because it looks great, but it would at least be, nice of us to let them in on it. If they have any comments, to give them an opportunity. So if you could reach out to them and do it through the administrative level is great. Or
Yeah.
if you,
Kristen or I can reach out to Cecilia and find out what she thinks, and then she'll know best about if we need to elevate it to the actual trustees.
okay. And they may not care at all about it, but again, just would be the polite thing to do. Terrific. All right, great. Thank you, Kristen. This looks great.
Thanks, Kristen.
It is great. Great job.
One quick question on that. Is there a place to add like a map? Or I feel like there's a lot of times where you'd have like year-end events and people would sort of draw where certain things were going to fall within the playground or Newman. And even if it's an optional field, so people don't have to enter it, but it helps us. And I think it would like preempt a follow-up if they can just include a diagram.
That's a
or
good point. We can put like upload any additional documents you think we
Mhm.
might need.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That will also eventually, if any of those events also need COVID protocols, then there will also be a required question for that as well. Once we get to that point, we may have to receive the request and then reach out depending on timing, but at some point that may be another question. Thanks.
Okay, great. Do you need us to give you a thumbs up or a vote or anything on that, or? Right.
Yeah, I don't
Thumbs
think it has to be official because we're just changing the format of the form. We're not changing the
Okay.
forms. We just want to make sure that you guys were on board with it before we went forward
Great, appreciate that.
into 2010.
I think it's
21.
20, maybe even 21, if that's the year we're in. Okay. All right, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Kristen. We're still on fields, huh? All right. Awesome. In my research on concussion safety website and other resources, this looks like a long list. It is about a third of the websites that I found. I focus specifically on CDC and NAES because those are the two prominent ones in Massachusetts. I did not allow Kristen to put them all into the packet. We thought it would be funny at first, but then I realized it'd be like millions of pages. So these are the links. There's some information on there. CDC and NAES are very, very similar, and both have specific trainings for coaches, parents, volunteers, and I think NAES even has like a youth sports organizer level, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I noticed Chris ran away during this conversation, so that really speaks to me, but perhaps we can make him test it out on the, oh my God, he's gonna hurt himself.
Sorry.
But there's a lot of good information, so I just put it all in there for you guys.
Okay.
Back and forth. Okay, so we're still okay. Sorry. Playgrounds, we went over much of this when Nancy was there. Again, if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to chat, at the bottom of all my emails is my cell phone, so you guys can reach out to me directly or text. And if you have any questions or comments, just let me know. CPC, so Walker Pond was this past Wednesday. You guys should be real thankful that Chris is on that commission. Whew.
Oh, yes. During the walk,
Seriously.
Stacy and I were texting how we owe him big time, because
Yeah, it's like,
there is excruciating detail and in lots of questions. And we were only on one project, Stacy and I.
so anyway, I'll have Chris give you an update about Walker Pond, but it was like Groundhog Day as far as I know. I don't know if there is an update. Just a lot of the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now, from what I saw, it was the most in-depth conversation that has ever been taking place about Walker Pond. Questions upon questions upon questions that just came out of nowhere, and it was very detailed. That I think Tony was the shortest that he had ever spoken, and I think the CPC members spoke longer than Tony, which I didn't think was
Also,
possible.
Tony spoke for an hour and 17 minutes, so that explains the, not that I was timing it.
Yes. Yes, an hour.
Um,
Yes, Stacy left after an hour and I think I stayed for the remaining 17 minutes. Oh,
But I mean,
Yeah.
all in all, I mean, it seemed that the commission or the CPC members were for it. There were real no negative aspects about it. I think there were a lot of questions in regards to plants and trees that were the scope of the project, a certain manhole cover that might be put up somewhere. I mean, but it wasn't a kind of rip apart thing like what they've done with other articles. So I thought it was a great presentation, but went way longer than anticipated.
yes. So,
Thorough.
and
Very
the next-
thorough.
very
Yes.
thorough. They re-engineered what the town engineer had done, in my opinion. So when is the next meeting, Chris? And that is the public hearing, is that right?
No, the next meeting is Emery Grover, and then the meeting after that is the public hearing.
Okay. Okay.
March 3rd is the public hearing still, Cindy.
Still, okay. We are crawling to it. Okay.
Mhm.
I feel
Now,
like
the
this is the
only-
longest CPC cycle ever. I'm just gonna put it out there.
It
I
is.
feel like it's just, and I think it's because of October meeting, but it was just like, we just didn't stop this year. It's just been nonstop.
Yeah.
And then, okay, sorry, Kristen. I'm jumping ahead of everybody.
No, I
And the
was just
last
gonna say,
item is the assistant director position, which, sorry, Chris.
sorry, I just want to give a quick update on the other two things. I hate to say it, but I worded it this way. The other CPC article that we have for the track resurfacing, all good. For McLeod, I'm going to need some help. That the liaison, and I'm going to word this nicely, somebody has already made up his mind for him in regards to that. So I need help from either Stacy or Cindy to kind of speak to the liaison and just back up what Eddie's trying to do in regards to the scope of the project. That I know I've had a conversation with him that I could use some help discussing what the scope of the project is. That I know Ed Olson has reached out to him and pretty much didn't get anywhere. I think it would help to have the director or at least the chairman of the Park and Rec Commission speak to the liaison to kind of re-up what the whole scope of the idea is, what we're trying to do.
Is this
Because
the,
as it's looking right now, he is saying this is not looking too good.
So
is this
Chris,
the same liaison, Chris, as the Walker
Artie
Pond?
Crocker,
Oh, this is Artie. Okay.
yes.
but Chris, does this go back to the discussion we had before about the separation of what's DPW versus what is Park and Forestry?
Yes, it does. Like there is a definite, fine line between what should be discussed through DPW and what should be, water source, and what is CPC eligible. But the way I'm looking at it, or the way I'm hearing it is, oh, it's all DPW. It's not even CPC eligible, which I don't think it is, because the playing surface is the playing surface. That is CPC eligible. Yes, Eddie is addressing that the drainage issue that is under the playing surface is one of the major factors of why this renovation is being done. But, it's almost like the chicken or the egg. You have to do the drain if you're going to do the field. And if you're going to do the field, if you're digging up at that time, address the drain at that time. Now, when it
So,
comes down to construction funds, I have no problem if CPC pays for everything that is in the scope of CPC, but if DPW has to foot the bill to redo the pipe, then yes, they should be responsible for that. CPC should not be paying for things that aren't eligible.
so Chris, one other suggestion would be to look at precedent-based projects. So Memorial Park. So we just did
Newman,
this, a couple years ago, right? With the drain from the coming
The hill.
down the hill, and then it ripped up the parking lot. I believe that
Mhm.
was all CPC funded,
Yep.
and that was a drainage issue.
Mhm.
When
When
which
we
actually,
did Newman, there was a drainage issue from the school.
right, so
Walker Gordon, when it was redone, drainage issue. So everything that has been CPC has had some form of drainage attached to it.
So that's what I'm saying is maybe bring those projects to Artie, because he will go with precedent sometimes. I mean, you know, and maybe it's just utilize those projects as, hey, these were passed.
Mhm.
These were passed by the CPC before. They are very similar. Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong.
The largest difference that was highlighted during the presentation of McLeod was the a big problem, and the reason that the field is in such dire need of improvements and adjustments is that a very large stormwater pipe is directly under the field.
Mhm.
And that stormwater pipe is not field stormwater. That stormwater is from Birds Hill and the upper portion from the neighborhood behind the MBTA line. So Memorial Park had a drainage problem, and the solution was to put a pipe and to grade it and make a sub pump and make that correction to find places for the water to go, because it was damaging the field. And all this separation is that it is because of a stormwater pipe that we are having damage to our field. And so that's the chicken egg. But for the stormwater pipe that already exists under this field, which stormwater piping should be a problem of the DPW in the eyes of some people, would the field need the improvements? And so that's the difference, and that's the separation that the CPC has identified between any old project in concerning field drainage and this particular field project.
Yeah, so
drainage.
I'm with you and I understand the delineation. Again, let's go back to Memorial for a minute. If I recall correctly, because I don't think I would have remembered seeing these photos, but there was a picture Eddie had of one tremendous rainstorm where the water came down the hill, went across the field, across baseball,
Mhm.
and down onto Highland Ave, like the
Yes.
waterfall down the stairs,
Yep, I remember
Yes.
that.
right? Which, while I agree with you, Kristen, it's not the water, but that's drainage hitting the streets, which is also what was mitigated for those 100-year storms type thing. So it could be enough of a crack into their perspective, because while yes, we were fixing a field problem and drainage from the school down the hill to the field, it ultimately was solving a broader town issue because of those waterfall pictures that, I don't know, it's just another angle.
Which has a similarity in this case because the water that comes off the field on the other end of the field goes and dumps into the reservoir and the sand pit that we need to fix for the sediment removal project for the reservoir. So it's
There you
kind
go.
of like
Which is also a CPC article.
Right.
So it's almost like a 2-for-1
there's
deal.
a lot
Right.
of balls in the air right now.
Yeah,
There's
no,
a
I
lot of
get it.
things
I
going
get
on.
it. And I know it's painful. I'm just trying to point to ways that we might be able to skirt the issue. And I know that this particular person, once he digs his heels in, it's very hard to move him, but
Yeah.
Yep.
let me
So-
know how I can help.
So Chris, what's the, what is he pushing for? He's pushing for DPW to have to pay for the drainage piece, but the field piece would still be CPC?
Well, whenever we have a CPC meeting, we always give updates, and Artie couldn't be on the call to give an update at the last CPC meeting, so I don't want to answer for him.
Okay, right.
So I'm just going to leave it at that. So the next time I would have an update from him that would be public would be at our next CPC meeting, which is next Wednesday. That in the meantime, you're right, Matt, it's a great idea to show the projects that we've done before and say, hey, listen, this is almost very similar to what we're looking at doing right now.
Okay.
But again, it would also help to have the support of, other people, not just me kind of hammering home to be like, oh, okay, it's just Chris. If there's anybody else that can support, it'd be great. So because he's hearing it from multiple people, not just one person.
Okay. All right. We'll talk. Stacy and I can reach out to him. Perhaps I do know him a little bit. Stacy, you may not know Artie. But is he the appointee from the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board? Conservation, right?
Conservation,
I
yes.
think he used the Planning Board at one point,
Mhm.
perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. I'm happy to reach out if anybody wants to send me his contact information. I'm happy to reach out to him.
I will send it to you this evening.
Great. And the last item on my director's report is the assistant director position. It has been posted.
Yay!
It closes on the 11th. If you click the Indeed link and you do not see it, that is for a very, depending on how you look at it, good reason. Once the applicant number goes over 100, the town pulls it off because that is a
Ooh.
lot of people to screen through,
Mhm. Okay,
especially when that is not the only place that we have posted the position. So, when I checked with Ellen last week, we were up over 80 applicants.
Wow.
Now, when you post anything on Indeed, you can probably scrap half of them right off the bat,
Mhm.
but that still leaves us with a good number of people. And that is not counting the MRPA, which is our state organization, and MMA, as well as the Facebook postings that we put up. So
great. Terrific. All right. So just a few more days and it's closed.
that is correct.
Is
Okay.
anybody floating to the surface yet?
I am for diversity and equity blind screening them. So I am not looking at anybody's name or address before I look at their applications. So I have not seen anything. And the few people that have erroneously sent their applications and resumes to the Park and Recreation email, I have asked the staff to forward it on to HR. And then hide it in a folder so that I can't see it.
Understood.
Great. All right. Thank you. All right. That's the director's report. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners for the director? No. All right. Thank you, Stacy. Let's see. Let's look down our discussion items, CPC meeting 2,
Done.
3. Done. Budget update from the FinCom meeting.
So our FinCom meeting went pretty well, I think. You know, they had a few questions, but nothing that was too crazy. I think it went overall pretty well. They did have some follow-up questions that Kristen and I met with and answered and forwarded to them afterwards. I think the answers to their question were already in the documentation. We just put it in an easy to read form. There was some additional stuff we did give to them, but they got that stuff last week, and now it's just fun and waiting.
So, Mr. Gershel and I attended that meeting along with Stacy and Kristen, and from my point of view, and from having gone to numerous finance committee meetings over the years, our director did an excellent job,
Mhm.
and our administrative specialist also did an excellent job. Information was provided, was, I think, very helpful to them. There were 8 out of 9 members there. They had quite a few questions, but overall, it was a very positive tone. You know, we've had some pretty rough and tumble ones with them over the last few years with the whole pool issue, but they didn't give us any indication as to where they would end up, obviously, with what their recommendations would be, but they can't do that till they see the whole budget. But certainly, the tone of the meeting, I thought, was very upbeat, and their questions were insightful and seemed to understand what we're looking for. Whether or not they're able to give us that money, I don't know, or able to agree with the town manager. But again, our staff did an excellent job in presenting the materials, both the written and then the oral explanation. So thank you to the staff for that. All right. Any questions from the commissioners? No, okay. Let's see. Next is summer programming statement.
So if you want to go to page 195 of your packet, this is our notification of as much information as we possibly have right now at this moment. I have reached out to public health and emailed them and said, hey, I know that you guys aren't busy with anything. We should probably talk about the pool soon, so let me know when your schedule opens up. They politely said, thank you for reaching out and we'll schedule something in the next month or
Okay.
late this month. So now that the first vaccine clinic is under their belt that happened this weekend, I think they'll have a better headspace for it. But they were just like, not yet. And again, the other thing with our summer programming is the meeting this week with the schools about the about any use with school buildings. So between those two, we'll have a better sense soon. But right now, this is what we have. So if anybody has any questions or comments.
Nope. Any commissioners, comments, questions? No.
Don't have to worry
Thank you,
about snow
Kristen.
days, that's all.
No snow days, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Now I think it reads as well as it could read at this point. I mean, it's as informative as it could be.
Well, it was all Kristen, so thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. You have a way with, so thank you.
The next page is our, we gave you at our last meeting, the pools revenue overview.
Yep.
Or budget overview, and this is now the summer programming overview.
So the revenue
unlike-
reflects
so-
everything, and then, sorry, delayed. So
Oh,
the
go
revenue
ahead.
reflects everything, because we did start our normal summer programming registration minus COVID in March, like at the very beginning when we thought this was all going to be a 2-week thing. And so the outstanding credits, that's the only reason that I included them, because many families chose to have a credit versus a refund. So the end result, the end number, and I know this is mostly for Mr. Tulin, but the end result does take those credits into consideration. So if you don't take those credits into consideration, our profit is plus the credits. So, I mean, they're still in our system. That money is still usable towards any of our programming, usable towards the pool memberships, swim lessons, anything that the department offers. And many of them were used immediately for summer recess when that became available later in the summer. But overall, we kept our expenses down and our payrolls pretty flat and controlled to make sure we were maintaining our finances. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? No? All right. Thank you, Kristen.
And the last thing on the programming part is archery, and that is on page 197.
Yep.
Basically, the person who runs all of our archery programs is asking to run his program earlier than the fields open. Now they run their program, currently we run them in the quarry over at Claxton. I did let him know about your ruling on the track before 4/1, April 1st. But he still asked that I bring it to your attention. So here I am bringing it to your attention.
So when does he want to start? He wants to start March 19th. Is that right?
Yes, he wants to start running program March 19th.
Why?
Well, it's optimistic.
Why?
I agree with the why, right?
It's doubtful the weather will be good at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I say it facetiously, but I'm somewhat serious. Why would somebody want to start a program sooner than we are open?
My guess is this is his business and his livelihood, and because he can only run so many kids per class versus what he used to be able to do, he's trying to start early.
I think he's dreaming.
We do typically run an indoor version of this program, which obviously at the moment we cannot run because of restrictions. But generally, we have a February, March indoor archery session.
You're gonna bring those, is he bringing his own kerosene or propane heaters for the kids to stand under so that they can shoot and actually feel their fingers on the strings?
Yeah.
Now that's a good point right there.
Does anyone see a reason why we would want to approve this for March 19th as opposed to when we open our fields and all other outdoor programs? I mean, I'm not that inclined to do it. I do think it's very risky for him because, you know, those 10 or 12 days in March are going to be freezing. But any reason that you think we should try to accommodate this, or Stacy and Kristen, do you feel strongly about it?
Do, but I don't vote.
Oh, no, but we're always
But you can give an opinion.
We're always interested in your opinions. You guys live it every day. We live it, you know, a lot, but not quite the same.
Okay, I feel like you felt very strongly about the track being used. And while the quarry is not a field, it still opens up a can of worms that it is going to be open, especially in the world of COVID, especially with fall 2 sports coming around. I think we have to be careful.
Okay.
I understand where he's coming from, but I think I'm concerned. And I don't know, I have not been to the quarry / town forest. I don't know how close the ice is. Like, can we hit the kids on the ice with an arrow? Okay,
No.
good.
No, I mean,
Well, then we don't have to worry about that, but
no, I mean, the quarry you're in a quarry, so
Yeah, it's an enclosed, almost like amphitheater almost.
yeah,
High,
it's like you're
like
in a
30-foot high wall.
Yeah. I think, Bruce, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think we should just
Climate?
guide him into reality, giving a lot of refunds and say the field's open. You know, he can.
I can't wait to call Mark tomorrow and be like, I have been tagged with guiding you into reality.
I love that phrase. I'm gonna keep
Yeah, I know,
that
that's great.
for you
Bruce coming
guys.
up.
Yes.
I like this. Okay.
On the other side of that, we've used April 1st as the opening for the fields to give the fields a rest for a specific reason. The quarry is not a field, so I don't think the same rules necessarily apply. But if we're being consistent with the date in which programming starts, and that's April 1st, then I'm comfortable with that. But I feel like the dates for opening the fields is, you know, also has to do with making sure that the grass is protected and we're not stomping on it when it's wet and cold, and that doesn't necessarily apply to the quarry. So just lobbing it in there for
No, that's a fair point. I agree with that.
Right. No, it is a fair point. And the only thing I can come down with is being consistent, particularly again, a year or a second year of COVID, right, where we try to be consistent. But that's a good point. Stacey, if you do stop at the quarry when you're over at Claxton, it is by my thinking very contained, and unless someone shoots it way straight up in the air, the arrows probably don't leave the quarry. But it probably is muddy. Right, is very muddy. Having bought my Christmas tree over there, that ground was pretty muddy then. So I think for the sake of consistency this year, I guess I think April 1st might make the most sense, and guide them into reality. Yes. Do you need a vote? Probably not a vote on this, right? Okay. All right. We'll go with
No, we
that.
would only need a vote if you were changing it, because
Okay.
programmatically we would never start anything before
April 1st. No.
nothing outdoors.
Okay, terrific. Now we're on to facilities, fall 2 sports and concussions. I think we covered.
We covered concussions. We did
Concussion.
not cover
Oh.
fall 2 sports.
So what's happening with fall 2 sports?
So I can give you the quick update from what I know. I also want to remind you that Dave Rutley from Junior Football is here observing. He does have a question that I will get to in a second. I'll read it to you guys. But so fall 2 sports has been approved by Maya for football.
Oh.
Definitely. Cheering is a whole different thing. It has been approved. Apparently I have to go now make signs and protest the whole thing about cheering, because cheering is not considered a sport by Maya, but we won't go down that road right now.
Oh,
But I will make some signs. So anyway, in my many conversations with Dan Lee, he knows a whole lot of nothing right now. I don't know that they've even made a final decision on what Needham is doing for Needham football. Chris might know better than me as of late. The last time I talked to him, Dan, it was like, we're going to do something, we don't know what it is. Go ahead.
Sorry, my bad. Dan sent out an email at 5:06 p.m. today stating that they will be doing football, boys and girls, indoor track and field, cheer, dance, girls volleyball, and unified basketball. The tentative start date will be Tuesday, February 23rd.
Could you please forward that email to me, Chris?
Coming to you right now.
Thank you.
How is that? That feels
Now,
like,
it's again pending final approval from Needham Board of Health and NPS administration. He does, and he boldly put that out there.
So indoor track is going outdoors.
It says
Well,
boys
They
and
always
girls indoor
they
track
always
and field.
practice outdoors anyway. They just,
Their
whether or not
meets
they can
will
get,
also be outdoors.
know.
Everything. The last I
Don't
talked
know.
to Dan,
Oh,
that is what was going to happen. I did
Don't
not hear
know.
about anything. I knew about unified basketball. I did not know Needham had a unified basketball team
Join the
at the
club.
high school.
I did not know that either.
I didn't know that either.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
been
think we
there
do.
for a couple of years now.
Great. I have a meeting. In the meantime, as far as football goes, and I'm only putting that out there because I didn't know about volleyball and if that's going to be outdoors. But as far as I know, the
No,
only
it's indoors.
okay,
The-
the only
the
outdoor
only-
sports that were going to affect us was going to be football, potentially
And
cheering, and indoor track.
And the dance would also be outdoor for the football halftime games. That is the that is the football, that is the dance team that goes out on the football fields.
Okay.
But
Sounds great.
that's not, there isn't a youth equivalent, to be honest. And I think they mostly practice indoors anyway.
So, we have had conversations with Eddie. I reached out to Eddie about the turf fields. Eddie has gotten us some quotes about how there would be snow removal on said turf fields. If the town has to pay for it, that's not going to happen, and we will only play sports if the weather cooperates. The cost is phenomenal. We are all in the wrong business
Yeah.
because they make a lot of money for a very short amount of time. But yeah, so between the two quotes, it was laughable that for any one storm we would ever be able to remove the snow. So if the town has to, or the schools have to pay for it, not going to happen. I don't know if there is a booster situation or a private donor or any of that coming up. My conversation with Dan and Eddie on Thursday will hopefully enlighten me more. But I think it's still, all of these things have not been officially approved by the Board of Health. So we're still waiting on that piece of it.
and Stacey, sorry, the snow removal, it's a different process than you bringing your snow blower onto the.
Yeah,
Nope.
you can't, no.
It's a special, actually, it's a special plow.
Okay,
You can't, they wouldn't even really shovel it. It's a special plow with a rubber blade. It's significantly lighter. The tires are everything's special.
hence the cost and the cost.
Hence the cost. And because of the specialized nature of it, everything has like a 2-hour minimum or a 4-hour minimum. So regardless if it's a light dusting or something significant, it's going to cost us minimally thousands of dollars per snowstorm.
No, thanks.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course we also have the issue of the hill at Memorial Field is used heavily by sledding. So
Oh,
that could be also something that may need to be considered if we did entertain the idea of plowing that field. And then you've got kids potentially sledding down that hill. Well, spectators won, but kids sledding down the hill into the grass. It's not just, I
We
hadn't
don't
thought
want to
about
take
it.
away a sledding hill in the middle of COVID. Anyway, that is a conversation that we're gonna have on Thursday with Dan and Eddie. I don't know if Dan Gutenkans is involved in that yet, but I will have some information.
Okay.
And obviously the Board of Health is going to make a decision on it hopefully soon.
What about the trustees on that one? Are they gonna,
Ooh.
Yeah, they would need to be,
they need to be
Uh,
consulted on that.
They will have to be consulted once the Board of Health gives a thumbs up to it. I believe the Board of Health can say what, I don't know what the process, but I think everybody's waiting on the Board of Health. But
I
yes,
think-
then the trustees
Mhm.
would definitely have to be reached out to and asked, and they would have to probably have a phone call meeting or something.
so I
By
think,
fax.
yeah, the Board of Health would be the overriding approval. If they don't say, okay, then nothing happens. If they say, okay, then I think all the other things have to fall into line. But the trustees would have to think about that whole sledding hill and the fact that if you spend money to plow a field, right, then you then can't have sledding. But it sounds like we wouldn't be plowing a field anyway. So,
No.
yeah, so,
Well, but the trustees may want to weigh in on that perspective.
Right, right.
Right? That's, they, again, to your point, Stacy, look, I want to see it happen as much as everybody else, but I also don't want us to undergo the cost. The only other thought I had was when we had, what was it, 3 or 4 years back, when we had snow on April 1st and we put the extra infill down on the top of the snow, which made the snow melt faster. That was something that we did. Now, we have a newer field, so adding infill may not be the appropriate thing to do at this time. But I remember Eddie did that at Memorial to try and get the spring sports started, because otherwise we weren't going to get started until the end of April that one year.
right. Okay, well,
2016.
2016, I recall that too, Matt. Stacey, if you could keep us up to date, just let us know what transpires and what the deal is. So some sports like cheerleading, is that going to be outside?
Yeah, it would, I mean, if it's associated with, I mean, I don't know where their competitions are held or done or whatnot, but I do know that the high school cheer team doesn't just do it for the games. They also have their own competitions outside of it. Whether those are inside or not, where their practice is. Stacy, is it possible that you could tell me, because I'll be honest, we're going to need to, how much per storm are we talking to appropriately plow the field? Because that will be a question that gets asked, particularly by the football parents and the parents of seniors.
Yep. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull that up for you guys. In the meantime, I don't know if can you guys see the questions that,
No.
okay, let me read that question and then you guys can, it's like coffee talk. I'll read you a question and then you can think about it. So Dave Rutley asks, in terms of a fall 2 sports season, is the commission open to allocating field space to programs like football, which are typically not part of the spring schedule? I recognize no commitments will be made until the field summit, but would like to directionally understand if it's even possible.
For the spring season or for fall 2 season?
I would assume fall 2.
I think he's
Because-
referring to fall 2, because for spring season, there wouldn't be any space.
Right, and
Uh,
fall 2 would
Dave,
be over
you
by
could-
then.
Reach out, let me know. Kristen has the numbers quicker than I do because she can find them as I'm reading. For the plowing. So Dave, are you referring to fall 2 or spring? If you could answer that in the question and answer. And Kristen, if you can tell me what the 2 quotes were for, and one of them is from the company that built Memorial, that is correct, right?
Yeah, this is from RAD Sports, which is, I think they do some of our other field maintenance as well.
Yep.
So there is a 4-hour minimum, and for the per hour cost, it's $195 for the actual equipment, the skid steer with push plow, and then it's a $225 charge per hour for the tractor with snow blower, plus the hauling cost of $350. So at minimum, you're looking at
1,200, something like that.
Do it.
Yep.
195 for the equipment, 225 per hour, and then 350 to haul away.
4
depending
hour
on the-
minimum.
4 hours. Is there a 4-hour minimum on each of those
Right.
hours?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So depending on what you need, it could be as low as 12, as high as 16, 17 per deployment. So if we needed it today and then we needed it tomorrow because there's another 6 inches of snow coming, that's $1,200 at a time, at minimum.
The other quote was for a snowstorm from 8 to 18 inches was 45 to 5,500 per field.
Okay. Wow, okay.
So we do have 2 quotes
Mhm.
for people when they ask those questions.
Right,
yeah. I
Thank you,
just more
Dave.
want to inform.
yep.
Okay,
Okay,
so Dave answered our question. Bay State is trying to work toward the following dates. The week of March 13th, non-padded conditioning. March 22nd, preseason padded practice. April 18th through May 23rd are the weeks of games.
oh, so he
So it
would
would
be,
be more a spring season, although it's that. Yes, it would be more of a spring season.
right,
I think it would be, honestly, it'd be substantially hard because the spring is our busiest field season. And we're already jammed.
so, yeah, he's basically looking for like more than the first half of the spring season, right? 418 to 523.
And there is no preseason. We don't allow anybody on preseason. We just had that discussion. So nobody would be able to get on until April 1st. Period. Right? And then that's the policy. And then you're talking into the spring season.
Wow. Kristen, did you have a comment? I'm sorry, but no. Oh, sorry. I just caught your hand. Okay.
The other thing is just a reminder that MIAA changed the dates of the spring season and to incorporate the fall 2 season, if you guys remember that. It's February 23rd to
April
April
23rd, I think.
3rd and 23rd, and then April 24th to July 3rd.
July 3rd, yeah.
So the football request that Bays is looking for actually spans both seasons.
And so they did play some in the fall, is that correct?
They were permitted on our fields, yes. They were, regulated just like many of the sports to
Yeah.
scrimmages and in town.
Wow. Any comments from the commissioners? I mean, I hate to not to not be able to give them space. I just don't I don't see how that's going to work for us. But any comments from the commissioners?
Dave has 2 more comments. He's saying they did not play, they practiced only. And
Okay.
by definition, we are not allowing youth fall 2 sports then.
Basically, we can't. We only have the one field for football. And there is no other outdoor sport for youth for fall 2. Everything else is indoor. So other than cheer, right? But everything else that is fall 2 is an indoor activity that was postponed. We only have the one football field. There is no grass fields would be ever made available, right? We're not plowing fields. And, you know, it's the busiest, field sports is the busiest time in the spring.
Is there any way to get them on that football field at that time?
Well, we don't know what the schedule is going to be like for the high school. They're going to have the preference from 3 to 6 and on
Right.
game days. So if there is time at Memorial, it's going to be sporadic and very little.
Well, we'd also have to be doing lights in the winter, which I don't know if that's an approval.
And what Memorial would say about that.
Well, but I don't know what our zoning is on lights, because usually youth football practices in the evenings after the high school, so there shouldn't be a conflict with practice,
Okay.
right? But you would require lights. So then, but I don't know what our guideline, we've never really had it. We've never really had the issue in the winter, right? In these months, we've not
Mhm.
had lit fields. So I do not know what public sentiment is or our zoning guidelines are with regards to lighting. If there is anything.
We'd have to look at our policy because we definitely have, there's guidelines in our policy and it was approved by the zoning board of appeals. I just, off the top of my head, don't know what that is, but if you were to look at our lights policy, it would be in there.
Oh,
Kristen
Kristen's
has
got
it.
Kristen,
Nice.
Kristen has it.
It is in the policy. It is considered the winter season from December 1st to March 31st. And the only thing limited past that was that high school practices after the third Monday in March are subject to any special permit to use it. But it does say that lights may be requested during the following timeframes and divided into 4 seasons, winter being December 1st to March 31st.
oh, so
I
they
think
are available. That's
it-
what it's saying.
That is the way I'm reading it. I could definitely dig into this a little bit further, but that is number 6. Lights may be requested the following timeframes and divided into 4 seasons. And the only thing it says, oh, I'm so sorry. I skipped right over it. Other than special event, no permit will be issued for any use of lights during winter other than for Needham High School.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. I thought, so there's no lights. There's no zoning allowance for lighting. So this would basically leave them some hours on a Saturday or a Sunday to do anything in the fall 2 season. In the what is currently going to be the fall 2 season,
Right, February 22nd to April 23rd.
23rd,
Mm.
correct?
Right.
Happy 22nd.
Right. I mean, I'm not seeing that there's a way we can do this. Anyone have any ideas or Stacy, Kristen, what do you think?
I don't, honestly, I haven't, I want to get through the conversation in meetings with Dan and Eddie and Public Health and find out where the high school shakes out and what they'll be doing before I really dig into youth sports for fall 2
Okay.
because of just the significant limited spacing that we have. And
Yeah.
that even, I mean, I feel very strongly that in general, obviously we rest our grass fields as much as possible, but the turf fields need rest too. Obviously COVID is a different year, but this would be the exception. In any other given year, I wouldn't want to have our turf fields open in the winter.
Right. Well, I mean, I think as far as Park and Rec is concerned, we just won't have space. Don't know what to say about Memorial Park. That's not, I mean, we do that scheduling, but that's not under our jurisdiction. Right.
But the lighting as well as the light zoning change would not, going to the zoning approve, that process will be months.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even,
Mhm.
I would propose that we try to do that. I mean, that was a very hard fought battle and you wouldn't go into that battle again without a lot of good justification. The zoning board of appeals spent a lot of time to come up with those rules. So I think, I mean, what I'm hearing for right now is from this commission is that we don't see a way to do it right now, but let's wait and see what the next few days hold, see what Stacy's meeting with Dan Lee and Dan Gutekunst, what comes out of that. But at this point, I don't think it looks that optimistic for us to have space in the spring. I mean, does that answer?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Yeah. Well, sadly, we hate to say no to, especially at this point, to any outdoor activities for kids and for sports, but it's only so much space.
Okay.
Okay.
The other item under fields, I did not hear back from St. Joe's, so I will get you an update at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Let's see. We're all the way down to pools.
Oh,
Memberships.
sorry, Madam Chair, one
Yes,
last question, going back to the plowing. What is the time, like, how fast does it get? Like, what's the turnaround if that were to happen? So let's say you guys, we're expecting snow tomorrow, right? Would the fields be plowed by, like, what's the service level agreement in terms of how rapidly would they be plowed after a snowstorm? And be usable, I guess would be the question.
I don't know that answer. I imagine Eddie can get it for us.
Okay.
So I can find out from, that's a good question to ask Eddie on Thursday. It wasn't part of the forms that he sent or the pricing, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm
But I can
just more curious to try and understand it. Again, trying to make it defendable.
With the amount of money they're charging, they'll probably be there like in an hour. I haven't done it.
I wouldn't promise that, Bruce, that, there's, I mean, I'll
Sitting
be
in the
honest,
parking
a
lot.
lot of the private schools plow on a regular
Oh.
basis. And there's some, Acton, Boxborough, I know that same year, 2016, they plowed all winter long and allowed for soccer to be played down that field in the middle of winter. They, as
Oh.
did Hopkinton High School, had huge snowbanks all around their football fields all winter long, just because they allowed for the turf to be used. But so different schools and different towns have different policies. So
With different priorities.
so I wouldn't want to assume an SLA based on how much they're paying, how much we're paying them, I guess is my answer.
Well, I think Chris and I could go shovel with a teaspoon and make some money.
Right there with you, Bruce.
Oh, we'll hold you to that. Okay, all right. Let's go on to the pool memberships for 2021. Stacy, take it away.
Take it away. It's 9:10. Okay. Here is my thought process. Again, so I've reached out to public health. We do not have any information for them about what this summer will look like. Here are my thoughts. Not in any particular order. Ever. So for 2020 memberships, people that bought a 2020 membership, many of them rolled over to 2021. Okay. So if we open in another COVID year, which this is looking like it may at least start in a COVID year, people already, the lap swimming was fine, but family swim slots still, some people did great and some people had one all summer. So now potentially their membership that they paid for 20 and 21 have very limited access to slots. If it doesn't open up at all and we ask people for more people purchase memberships, I don't know that financially we can afford to roll over another year for 22. And if we take in more members, I think we're going to have a lot of people that are very upset with us, because people that did not have a membership last year that really struggled to get in slots may be chomping at the bit to get memberships and still only end up with a couple of times a summer. So there's a lot of things up in the air, especially since we don't know. Now, if we can even double the amount of attendees, keep everything the same, you can just have twice as many people, then maybe we consider it, maybe we don't. I don't know, and neither does public health. Like there's no way of knowing. I have both been told to plan for a full summer and a completely the same summer as last summer. Not to mention, I don't know where FinCom is going to fall on our budget approval, so I'm not sure how we staff. So our request was to staff a full summer. Like I said, I truly believe we're going to at least begin this summer in a COVID regulated summer, but I don't know what that looks like. So I'm not looking for any, if you have an answer today, great. If you don't, it's really something we need to think about, because during the blizzard or the last 2 days of the maddening snow, we got many phone calls and emails about pool memberships, as is true for every New Englander. Oh, it's snowing. We need to think about the pool. So it's something that's coming up. Typically, we're already advertising this stuff. Part of our program announcement that we talked about earlier today will go out. This includes the pools. Again, we really should wait out to see what public health has to say, but I just wanted to put these things out there for you guys to think about. Lap swimmers, we didn't have any complaints about. They wanted to swim every day and they couldn't. They could only swim every 3 days. But other than that, we did okay. The family pods were tough to get. And if you didn't have a membership, they were even tougher. And so those people that really want to come may want memberships and be more frustrated that they paid the money and still couldn't get in. So I'm not sure. There's options to have a different price range for this summer. If we do it, we could have a different daily rate. I don't know. It's just something we really need to start to kick around as we get closer to getting guidance from public health.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. Do we have daily rates? Do we have people who walk in and, do those people still get to do that? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we sell new memberships. Because that means people who had memberships last year get perhaps less time this year. So I agree with you that we cannot afford to roll over these memberships one more year. So I guess I would ask everyone just to think about it, and then we're going to need to think about what works best for the public, so that we get as many people able to use the pool as want to use the pool. In a million years, I didn't think we'd be looking at this again this summer. I have to be honest. I thought that last year was a one and done kind of summer, and not so sure now, but all right. Any comments from the commissioners? Any bright ideas, or if not, think about it and write them down. Okay. All right. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, Christian.
The pool and revenue report ended up in the email ether. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is email the updated and final report to all of you, and then you can bring your questions with you to the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Or perhaps even send them to you ahead of time so that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, send them to me ahead of time. If they're easy answers, I can send them. If they warrant a debate, we can bring them up at the meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you. Special event approvals, were there any? None. Okay. Program pricing. None.
Tennis.
Oh,
Tennis
tennis.
memberships. A lot of
Tennis.
people are requesting tennis memberships. Kristen, are you screen sharing or?
It was a part of the thing I showed earlier, but basically the recommendation would be to keep them the same. We actually had more access because we did end up leaving the nets up much longer than we typically would. We usually take them down end of October, early November for snow, and they are currently still up. I don't know what the conditions are, but when people were asking over the fall, we said, you know, we will not replace them until the spring, but as long as the tennis courts, as long as the tennis nets are up, you're more than welcome to play, but don't shovel the courts. Same kind of rule about fields. Don't shovel them. Don't use them if there's terrible snow on the ground. So they're obviously not in use now, but if there's any damaged nets, we're not replacing them until the spring. And everyone was pretty satisfied with that. So they usually go on sale March 1st. It's $45 for a family set, 30 for an individual, 15 for a senior over 60, limited to Needham residents only. At last policy, we held that there were not any guests allowed on the courts. That was a COVID protocol rule. And you can obviously make that decision again, but you know, because usually a badge holder gets a guest a badge or membership. And then Needham employees, people employed in the town of Needham could also get it, but it's $60 per person. No family available, just $60 per person. So that would be the recommendation that Stacy and I discussed.
I would recommend also that we open under the same protocols as last fall with no guests until public health tells us otherwise, I think. Because once the snow thaws, people will be out there. They've been out there regardless of the weather. I mean, whether the temperature, the only thing holding them down right now. So I think we just keep the same protocols in place until we hear otherwise.
And the reason for no guests is?
The last protocols was no non-residents. So we required that every person playing was a resident, so that we didn't have to go up and ask for residency.
Got it. Okay.
And contact tracing purposes.
Okay.
Contact tracing purposes.
And when will we be looking at the net to see if the nets do need to be replaced? I just like to avoid any time when we don't have a net, because you know the other one got ruined and we haven't gotten a new one yet.
Nets are on order. So if we're not inspecting them, let me just put it that way. We're not inspecting them over the winter, and usually they go up in April. The new nets go up in April.
Okay.
Keep with continuity's sake, we will not replace any nets before April 1st. But perhaps if they are here in time after April 1st, we can replace them.
Right. No, I don't even play tennis. I just want to avoid downtime, because it seemed like tennis got very popular last year. It was an activity that people could do, and it was very popular, and I'd like to make sure that we have it available as much as possible. Okay. So you would think March 1st, the tennis badges will go on sale?
Unless you wanted a different day. That is our typical day.
Okay. Would you need a motion from us?
Yes, it's a fee approval.
Right. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the fees for the tennis badges? Bruce?
It doesn't seem kind of high that the employees of the town are $60. Is that standard? Is that the way it's always been?
So non-resident, the past practices of the commission is that non-residents of the town pay approximately double. So in another example would be the pool memberships. They are a bit lower. They're slightly under double for non-residents, but it's also hundreds of dollars instead of 60. That's just, they cannot exceed double. That's a bylaw, I think, of the town and not of the commission, but they cannot exceed 60. But they're non-residents of the town, so they don't pay for anything, any services that we provide through taxes.
I mean, if you think that's a fair price, I mean, it's a fair price, but It just sounds kind of high.
No. Stacy?
I would recommend for all of our pricing, but specifically to tennis, since this is the one you can vote on today, that persons that work for the town be treated as residents, but not necessarily people that just happen to work in town. So specifically people that work for the town of Needham. That has been a practice that we've used in other municipalities, and that is what often the municipalities use, but that is just a recommendation.
So the $60 is for people who work for the town. No, it's for people who work in town.
In the town, yeah.
Oh, got it,
Yes,
got it.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
the
so I
commission's
think
policy is that,
Bruce was,
Stacy.
I was hearing it the same way Bruce was, that we were talking about town employees.
I was
Sorry,
too.
no, sorry. No, people that work in town that don't live in town. So what, they work at Channel 5, they work at,
TripAdvisor.
yeah, TripAdvisor,
So
exactly.
Bruce, do
They-
you have do you have a concern now with it for non-residents who happen to work here?
No, non-residents that just happen to work in the town should, I would agree, $60 or whatever is fine, but employees of the town of Needham should get a much better break than that.
Right. I would agree with you, Bruce. Right.
And that's
They're
where,
considered residents. The town of Needham employees are considered
All right.
residents.
okay, yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Great. Okay. All right.
Make a
So-
motion, we accept the tennis fees for this upcoming year and the schedule as deemed by the staff about when they should go on sale. And the protocols for COVID as deemed by the staff and the Board of Health.
Is there a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we come to the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous vote. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. That is it, except for the approval of the minutes. And next in your packet with the minutes of the meeting of January 25th. Very well presented by Kristen. There any comments, questions, additions, deletions? Okay, could I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Park and Rec Commission for January 25th, 2021.
Second, okay, approve, motion made by Mr. Gerstle and seconded by Ms. Geddes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Topics of things. Anyone have anything that we haven't touched on? Michelle?
I just ask one question just regarding the field summit, given all the agenda items that we've talked about, as sort of a recap. I know we were waiting to hear an update from fall 2 to see how it would impact the season. There was a question about whether we would be, if and when we'd be able to give permits. Can we just recap what we're covering at the field summit? I just feel like there's still so many things up in the air that I'm just wondering if it's worth holding it, or if this is better to have in an email of like, this is where we stand, this is what we know, this is what's pending. So just wanting to confirm, given all that we've discussed. Tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Michelle. When I wrote the suggestion, I wrongly assumed I would have more information about fall 2 and therefore would have some information about spring. I don't have any of that now. So I think we can send a similar like I sent an email a few weeks ago to our field users being like, this is what we're doing. This is where we're at. We can, if the commission wants, I can certainly bump it out to our first March meeting, which is March 8th. And see what kind of information, because a lot of this summit is going to really rely on what guidelines we get from public health. along with all the other typical stuff that we would talk to them about, but that one is going to be very significant, especially with the high school season being so different. It's not going to start at the same time as our youth sports season, because it's going to start so much later. So I can, if the commission wants, I can put an email in. We can start the field permitting requests, the online requests, similar with the special permit request, so they can start the process. But we can bump out the field summit if that makes the most sense to the commission. Like I said, I just thought we'd have more information, so it made sense.
No, that's a very good point, Michelle. I mean, and maybe we will have information in 2 more weeks, but we've been saying that now for about, well, forever it feels like, right? But at least for the last 8 weeks.
About a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just needing to set expectations to say, we'd like to hold it on the 22nd. This is information that we're still waiting to gather. And, you know, even if we don't have those answers, these are the things that we're going to cover. Because my concern is that we're going to get on this field summit and they're all going to be looking to us for answers that we're just not able to provide. And then they'll sort of be left more frustrated than they came. So if we can at least identify kind of what we know, where it stands, what we'd like to cover with them to kind of get ahead of the spring season. And then we could either cancel it closer to the time, or we just hold it and just cover sort of the typical kind of trash, concussions, use of the fields, expectations, but just being more upfront with what we're expecting to cover.
Would you guys like me to like draft the email that I can send out and send it to you guys first? Before I
Yeah.
send it out to others?
Yes,
you
I think that would,
Anything that you want to add or take out?
yeah, I think that would be great because I'm kind of feeling like Michelle, that in 2 weeks we may not have any information, and it's going to be frustrating for the sports groups to be thinking that they're coming to a meeting to get some information and we don't have anything. Even though the later we go, the more it crunches them, but it's out of our control, unfortunately.
Better than last year.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. I think.
Do we think we'll learn anything new from the meeting that you're going to have on, is it Wednesday or Thursday, Stacy?
Thursday.
Thursday. Do you want to maybe start a draft? If we do get any information that helps us on Thursday, we can kind of make a decision on that. If we get no new information, go down the route of, hey, listen, we wanted to give this to you, but we don't have anything yet. So kind of wait till Thursday to see what comes out that day.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to the fact that the principal and Dan Lee are like, they're kind of living day to day, and they're really struggling to just finish the winter season right now. And thinking forward for them is very difficult because every Monday they check how many cases do they have in the school and what are they going to do with the sports. Are they going to remote learn or come to school? So they're facing a lot of tough decisions every single day. So it sounds like we can give them a little more time and give ourselves a little more time to be a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I feel like life is stressful enough. I can't imagine what their lives are like, trying to hold school together every day. So, okay. Terrific. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else?
Ooh, just quick update. It looks like we do have another candidate for the Park and Rec Commission that has drawn papers, and I don't know if they've been submitted yet, but we do have another candidate to fill the vacant spot that we will have coming up.
So you're going to tell us
And
who this
Michelle is
is?
wondering who that name is. Oh, don't tell her.
Oh, come on.
No, keep her guessing. Keep her
Yeah.
guessing.
Go ahead. You can say it. It's public knowledge, right?
Yeah, it's
It
public.
is Miss Dina Hannigan has taken papers out, and she is running for the Park and Rec Commission.
So she, I don't know her, but she was girls field hockey, or is girls field hockey, right? Both. Is she a coach as well as started the younger girls program, right?
Correct.
Right. So, unless Mr. Tulin, he's still got time to get his papers and,
No,
I
no,
guess-
you don't have time?
I guess
No, you
That's
do.
like postpone the field summit. That's fine. Let it go.
Oh, I think you'll miss us, Matt, but I suspect we'll miss you more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll miss you more than you'll miss us, but that's okay. That's all right. All right, so next meeting, Monday, March 8th. We'll hold off on declaring
No.
it. Summit.
No, we still have a meeting on
March,
the 27th.
February.
Whoa, February 22nd. Sorry, looking at the wrong date. Perhaps not a 6:30 start if it's not a field summit. So stay tuned for that one. And then the 2 dates in March. Okay. All right. Anything else? No, thank you all very much. I appreciate patience, and thank you to the staff. I know this is later than we normally go, so thank you for your patience. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll
Any
see you later.
opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
You beat CPC,
Right.
just saying.
Right.
Oh, rough.
Is it me?
Thank-
Is it me? It is.